My fiancée slept with her ex, the night after I proposed with a 10K ring, so I vanished and sent her the receipt. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I honestly thought I'd found the love of my life. Her name's Vanessa. We'd been together for 3 years, and from the moment I met her, I was done for. She had this way of making ordinary days feel like movie scenes. Soft laughs in the car, singing off-key to the radio, tracing circles on my hand while we watched TV. She wasn't perfect, but she was mine. Or so I thought. For months, I'd been quietly saving, skipping lunches, taking extra shifts, fixing broken air conditioners on weekends just to afford the ring she once showed me on Pinterest. A $10,000 dream. She had no idea I was planning it. I wanted it to be perfect, the kind of moment she'd tell our kids about someday. When the day finally came, I drove her to the hilltop where we'd had our first date. I set up lights, flowers, a small speaker playing her favorite song. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the ring box. But when she turned around, her eyes went wide, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Vanessa," I said, my voice cracking a little. "You're everything I've ever wanted. Will you marry me?" She covered her mouth, started crying, and whispered, "Yes." "Yes, of course I will." Then she jumped into my arms, kissed me like she'd been waiting her whole life for that moment. I remember thinking, this is it. This is what forever feels like. The peace, the certainty, the joy of knowing I'd made the right choice, but I didn't realize. Sometimes people cry out of guilt, not love. The morning after the proposal felt different. Not bad, just strange, like the air between us had changed overnight. I woke up to find Vanessa already out of bed, standing by the window in her robe, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up when I said good morning, just smiled faintly and mumbled, "Morning, babe." Her voice sounded off, thin, distracted. I figured maybe she was still emotional from last night. It had been a big moment. So I made breakfast, her favorite scrambled eggs with too much cheese, and placed the plate beside her. She barely touched it. "I promised my sister brunch," she said suddenly, like she needed an excuse ready. "She wants to see the ring." I nodded, pretending not to notice the hesitation in her eyes. "Of course," I said. "Tell her I said hi." But as she walked out the door, perfume trailing behind her, I had this weird heaviness in my chest. Like I'd just handed my happiness to someone who didn't want to hold it. The day dragged. No texts, no updates. Around 6, she finally messaged, heading home soon. But when she arrived, her smile looked forced. We watched a movie together, though she barely glanced up from her phone the whole time. When I asked what she was doing, she said, "Just checking Pinterest boards for wedding ideas." That night, she turned away from me in bed, scrolling until the light of her screen flickered across the wall. I reached out to pull her close, but she shifted further. I told myself she was tired, that every couple has off days. But deep down, something cracked. A small, quiet fracture in the trust I didn't know I'd soon lose completely. A few months into our relationship, Vanessa told me about her ex, Ryan. She called him toxic, said he'd cheated on her multiple times and left her broken. She made it clear that chapter of her life was over. "I'd rather die than go back to that," she once said, her voice shaking. I remember hugging her, thinking I'd be the one to show her what real love looked like. Over time, I stopped worrying about him. She never mentioned him again. Or maybe I just didn't notice how carefully she avoided his name. I trusted her completely, the way you do when someone's tears once soaked your shoulder. Then, a week after the proposal, it happened. We were sitting on the couch, her phone lighting up every few minutes with random notifications. I wasn't trying to snoop. I was reaching for the remote when I saw it flash across her lock screen for a split second. Venmo. Ryan M. 25. Drinks. My brain froze. It couldn't be that Ryan, right? There had to be another explanation. I asked casually, "Hey, who's Ryan M?" She looked up too quickly. "Oh, just my coworker. He spotted me for lunch the other day." She said it so smoothly I almost believed her, but her hand slid her phone away like it was evidence she didn't want me to touch. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, hearing her soft breathing beside me. My heart told me I was overthinking, but my gut whispered something uglier, that the past she'd sworn was dead might still be alive, and hiding right under my roof. It happened on a Sunday morning, the kind that starts quiet, with soft sunlight and the smell of coffee. Vanessa was in the shower, humming along to some song I couldn't recognize. I was sitting on the couch scrolling through emails when I noticed her iPad blinking on the counter. Normally, I wouldn't care. But then a message popped up on the screen. At first, I didn't even register the name, just the preview of a text. I missed your body. My brain froze. Then I saw the contact name, Ryan. My stomach dropped so hard I actually felt dizzy. For a second, I told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe an old message. Maybe some spam. I shouldn't look, but my eyes refused to move away. Another message appeared right beneath it, time-stamped 11:42 p.m. the night before. You tasted just like I remember. My hands started shaking. I tapped the message thread open. I wish I hadn't. There were dozens of texts. Some flirty, some explicit, some heartbreakingly casual, like two people who'd known each other forever. The last few made me sick. You shouldn't feel guilty. He'll never know. I couldn't stop thinking about you after he proposed. We both needed closure. Closure. That word felt like poison. She was in the shower that very moment, singing like nothing had happened, while the proof of her betrayal sat glowing inches from me. I scrolled until I couldn't breathe. The timestamp confirmed it. The messages were from the night after our proposal. Hours after she said yes, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the ring on her iPad case, the same one she'd admired, the same one I'd worked myself sick to buy, and felt my world split clean in half. My fingers were trembling so hard I could barely hold the iPad. I double-checked the timestamps, praying I'd made a mistake. But I hadn't. She said yes to my proposal at 6:17 p.m. I had the selfie of us right after. Her hand held up proudly with the ring, the same ring that cost me over a year of my life to afford, and at 11:42 p.m., just 5 hours later, she was with him. Not texting him, not flirting. With him, I looked at that screen until the letters blurred. 1,000 thoughts screamed inside me, all crashing together. How could she kiss me, cry in my arms, call her parents, and squeal with joy? And then do that? I wanted to confront her. I wanted to storm into the bathroom, throw the iPad in the sink, scream, "Who the hell are you?" But I didn't. Something in me shut down. Instead, I quietly airdropped the entire thread to my phone, screenshotted every message, saved them in a hidden album. Then I placed the iPad exactly how I'd found it, walked to the kitchen, and stared at the engagement ring she'd left on the counter earlier while doing dishes. It sparkled under the morning light like a lie wrapped in gold. I touched it, just once. Then I stepped back. When she came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, smiling and asking if I wanted pancakes, I said yes. I even kissed her forehead, but inside, I was gone. Something in me had turned to stone, and I knew in that exact moment I wasn't going to tell her. Not yet. Not until I decided how to end this on my terms. For the next 7 days, I became an actor in my own life. I laughed when I was supposed to. I held her hand at the farmer's market. I nodded when she showed me wedding venue ideas on Instagram. To anyone watching us, we were the picture of happiness, freshly engaged, deeply in love, planning our forever. But inside, I was rotting. She was suddenly so affectionate again. Making my coffee the way I liked it, climbing into my lap at night and whispering how excited she was to be my wife. She called me babe like it had always meant something. I kissed her back because it would have raised questions if I didn't. But every touch from her made my skin crawl. Every smile felt like it was cutting across my chest. I kept asking myself why. Why would someone do this? Say yes to forever, then run into the arms of the man who broke them. Was I just a backup plan? A safety net? Or worse, a wallet with a heartbeat? But even in all that rage and heartbreak, I stayed quiet, because I wasn't going to confront her with only what I had. I needed more. One thread wasn't enough. If she could lie with a straight face once, she could lie again. So I started watching, listening, subtle things. Who she texted before bed, when she smiled at her phone and flipped its screen down. I mirrored her warmth just enough to keep her off guard, and I waited. Not for revenge, not yet. For certainty. Because once I made my move, I wasn't going to look back. I just needed one final confirmation that the person I loved never really existed. It happened 4 nights later, over wine. Vanessa had invited her best friend, Kira, over for a cozy double date, just the 3 of us since Kira's boyfriend bailed last minute. We were sipping Merlot, half listening to some throwback playlist, and flipping through wedding Pinterest boards when Kira blurted something that knocked the breath out of me. She giggled and said, "You two got engaged after she saw Ryan?" "That's such a power move, V." I froze. The stem of my glass nearly snapped in my hand. Vanessa laughed, too hard, too quickly, and waved it off with a casual, "Ugh, Kira, stop!" But it was too late. I was staring at her like she'd just morphed into someone I didn't recognize. I kept my face neutral somehow. Played dumb. "Wait, she saw Ryan?" I said, pretending to be confused, even tilting my head for effect. Kira blinked. Her smile faltered. "Oh, I thought you knew. I just meant, closure and all that." "Never mind." She buried her face in her wine glass and changed the subject. But I already knew the truth. The missing piece I'd been waiting for. She hadn't run into her ex randomly.
She went to him on the day of our proposal.
The betrayal wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. And just like that, the illusion of her being confused or guilty but impulsive shattered. This wasn't a one-time slip. This was insurance. A backup plan in case I ever stopped being enough, and now that I had my final proof, it was time to decide how I wanted this story to end. I held it together longer than most people would. But after Kira's slip-up, I couldn't stop obsessing. My mind raced in every quiet moment, during showers, traffic lights, while brushing my teeth. The weight of it all started making me feel sick. I barely ate, barely slept, and still, I hadn't confronted her. Then one night, while she was asleep, I saw her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Charger plugged in, screen lit dimly with soft blue glow. Curiosity didn't push me toward it. Desperation did. My hands moved before I could talk myself out of it. Messages loaded instantly. iMessage synced with her phone. And there it was, a group chat labeled Bride Squad. I clicked. And it felt like opening a coffin filled with rot. One friend had posted a meme that said, "Lock down the ring, then sow your last oats." Vanessa replied beneath it, "LMAO, stop. I needed to get it out of my system before marriage, lol." Another friend responded with a champagne emoji and, "You're a savage queen. He'll never know. He's not the type to question." And the worst part? A voice memo from Vanessa, her voice bubbly, tipsy. "Guys, I did it. The ring is insane. Ryan was trash, obviously, but now I know. Closure. Checked. Diamond? Secured." I didn't even realize I'd stood up until the chair scraped back and hit the floor. My chest tightened, the screen blurred, and I barely made it to the sink before I threw up. Not because of the cheating, but because of the mockery. The ease with which they laughed about me. I wasn't a person to them. I was a prize, a joke, a type, and they were right.
I hadn't known.
Until now. She fell asleep that night, curled up against me like nothing had happened. Her head on my chest, her hand resting on the same heart she'd shattered. I stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to her breathe. My thoughts were quiet now. Not angry, not sad. Just done. At 3:11 a.m., I slipped out from under her arm. She didn't stir. I moved like I was underwater, slow and soundless. No lights, no zippers, no drawers. I took only what I needed. My passport, my wallet, my phone, a change of clothes, and a charger. I didn't even take my keys off the counter. Just the spares I kept hidden in my sock drawer. Before I left the bedroom, I took one last look at her. She was wrapped in the blanket, mouth slightly open. The diamond ring still on her finger, the one she had secured. I walked into the living room, took the velvet ring box from the drawer where I'd hidden it after the proposal, and gently opened it. Then I went back to the nightstand, slid the ring off her finger without waking her, and placed it inside. Next to it, I left a post-it note, just 5 words, "Return to sender." No forwarding, then I walked out. No dramatic slamming of the door. No long stare into the apartment we'd built together. Just silence. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew it couldn't be here. I got in my car and drove through the dead city. Headlights carving a path into nothing, and for the first time in weeks, I felt air in my lungs again. She must have woken up around 7 a.m. The sun would have been streaming through the blinds. The bed still warm beside her, but empty. No note beyond those 5 words. No toothbrush. No backpack. Just silence. My phone started blowing up within the hour. Missed calls, voicemails, text after text. "Where are you? Is this a joke? Please, talk to me. Then came the emails. I don't know what I did. Please just tell me you're okay. Then the DMs from her friends, some concerned, others clearly fishing for answers. I didn't respond to any of them. I blocked her number, blocked her Instagram, disabled my Facebook. I even shut off location sharing with my mom just in case she tried that angle. By noon, she'd called my parents. I'd warned them this might happen, told them not to engage. My mom was heartbroken but understood. My dad didn't say much, just nodded when I told him, "Don't answer unknown numbers." I rented a cabin 2 states away. Remote enough to be invisible, modern enough to keep working remotely. My boss had already approved my time away, and I gave HR a heads up that a family emergency might cause some disruptions in communication. I even created a temporary burner email, just in case she tried to reach me through work. She did. A message came through 3 days later addressed to my manager. "I'm worried about my name. We had a fight and he's gone. Please let me know he's okay." HR flagged it and forwarded it to me. I deleted it without reading the rest. She was spiraling. But she hadn't even begun to fall. Weeks passed. The flood of messages slowed. Her friends stopped posting those cryptic little loyalty matters quotes on Instagram. The noise faded. But I knew it was coming, the pivot. The moment she'd stop apologizing and start rewriting the narrative, it came in the form of a long, carefully worded email. "I've had time to reflect. I made a mistake. I panicked. You didn't deserve that, but disappearing like that? Ghosting me? That was cruel. That was emotional abuse." I stared at the screen in disbelief. "Emotional abuse? After what she did?" She continued, "I get it. You're hurt. But this isn't how adults handle pain. We were supposed to be partners. Instead, you humiliated me by vanishing. You could have just talked to me. There it was. The flip. She wasn't the betrayer anymore. I was. Her infidelity? A moment of confusion. My silence? A violent act. She painted herself as the victim now, traumatized by abandonment, struggling with nightmares, unable to eat. The way she spun it. You'd think I'd walked out on a healthy relationship for no reason at all, but the part that hit hardest was this line. "Maybe I messed up, but at least I tried. You? You're just hiding." She wanted me to feel guilt. Not for what she did, but for refusing to give her a stage to cry on. For not sticking around to make her feel better about breaking me, and for a moment, it almost worked. Almost. It was a Sunday afternoon when I got the call from my mom. I was chopping vegetables in the cabin kitchen, halfway listening to a podcast, when her name flashed on the screen. I answered casually, until I heard the edge in her voice. "They came here," she said. "Who?" I asked, already knowing. "Vanessa's parents. Just showed up. No warning. Apparently they were in tears. Her mom sobbing, her dad pacing the porch. They begged to speak to me. Said Vanessa was in therapy now. That she hadn't been eating. That she almost hurt herself one night. My mom didn't know what to do, so she let them in. Gave them tea, listened, then came the emotional hook. He just left, her mom cried. No goodbye. No chance to make things right. She's spiraling. My mom, bless her, doesn't know everything. I hadn't told her about the iPad, the text, the group chat. Just that Vanessa had broken my trust. So now she was caught in the middle. Honey, she said quietly. I'm not saying get back with her. But closure is important. Even if you don't forgive her, maybe she needs to hear that. Closure. That word again. The one people use when they don't get to control how you heal. But all I could picture was that screenshot. Vanessa saying she got it out of her system. Her friends calling me not the type to find out. They laughed at me behind a screen. Now they wanted sympathy because the consequences finally arrived. I didn't respond to her parents. I didn't respond to my mom. I just stared out the window and whispered to myself, she wasn't the victim. I just stopped playing the fool. 3 weeks after her parents showed up at my childhood home, I finally cracked open the folder on my phone labeled Proof. Inside were screenshots, photos, voice memos, all of it. But the one I kept staring at was the image of the ring receipt, 10,437.88 days. A year of skipped dinners, busted knuckles, overtime shifts, and lies I didn't know I was living under. That ring was supposed to be a promise. Now it was just a receipt of time wasted, love betrayed, and trust bled dry, so I unblocked her. Just for 5 minutes, long enough to send one final message. No hello, No explanations. Just the receipt attached with a caption. You owe me nothing, except your silence. Then I hit send. Blocked her again. Deleted the thread. And sat in complete stillness, letting the air settle around me like closing credits. Within hours, the fallout began. She didn't text me directly. She knew she couldn't get through. But her meltdown went public fast. Subtweets like, people love to abandon you and then act like the victim. Closure matters. Ghosting is cowardice. Imagine thinking silence is strength when it's just fear. Her Instagram turned into a cryptic diary, dark quotes, Bible verses, black and white selfies. A story post showing her crying in her car with the caption, "Healing isn't linear." Friends I hadn't heard from in years started reaching out. "Hey, is everything okay between you and V?" I didn't respond. Didn't owe anyone that, because for the first time since this whole thing began, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't performing, I was gone. And she knew it. I didn't follow her meltdown. Didn't watch her stories. Didn't read the comments. But people told me things. Mutual friends. Old co-workers. Even my barber who casually mentioned, "Hey man, heard Vanessa's been going through it lately." Apparently, she tried crawling back to Ryan, the ex she'd risked it all for. He lasted 2 weeks before ghosting her. Classic. Then she tried messaging my sister, multiple times. First playing nice, then guilt-tripping, then accusing her of enabling the silence. My sister never replied. She just sent me a screenshot and said, "This girl still doesn't get it." She didn't, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. Not for me. I wasn't angry. I wasn't waiting to see her fall. I didn't want her to hurt the way she hurt me. I just wanted distance, and so I built it. Moved to a different city. Got a new apartment, a new job, new furniture, all things that didn't remind me of her. I stopped checking the hidden photo albums. Stopped waking up with that knot in my chest. Peace didn't come all at once. It came slowly, in the quiet, in the way I could finally sleep through the night. In the mornings I didn't dread waking up. In the absence of apology I realized I never needed. One friend asked me, "Don't you wish you'd gone public? Exposed her?" No, that would have meant staying in her story, but I'd already written a better one, without her. It came at 2:09 a.m. on a Wednesday. I was working late on a pitch deck, half asleep, when I noticed the notification. Gmail. A name I hadn't seen in months. Vanessa. The subject line just said, "One last thing." I stared at it for a moment. My heart didn't race. My palms didn't sweat. I didn't feel dread or rage or even curiosity, just stillness. But I opened it anyway. I still think about you. I miss what we had. I've learned a lot. I know I ruined something real. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I needed you to know you weren't forgettable. You were everything. And I'm sorry I realized that too late. There was no manipulation this time. No accusations. No begging. Just soft regret dressed up as closure. The kind that sounds heartfelt, but really just asks for a reply. A crack. A doorway back in. I didn't give her one. I read it. Sat with it for less than a minute. Then I moved it to trash, not archive, not mark as read. Trash. No dramatic sigh. No second guessing. Just a quiet click and then nothing. Because by then I'd learned something people don't talk about enough. Not everyone deserves closure. Not everyone is owed an explanation. Some people aren't chapters in your story. They're typos. And the best way to fix them is to delete, so I did, not out of hate. Not out of pride, but because healing is louder when it comes in silence. There was a time I rehearsed the perfect confrontation in my head. Thought I'd show up at her door, toss the screenshots on the table, and watch her face crumble. I thought revenge would make me feel powerful. That watching her break would fix the part of me she shattered. But I was wrong. I didn't need her to cry. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need anyone else to know what happened. I just needed to disappear. Disappear from her world, from the story she tried to twist in her favor. Disappear into a life where I could breathe again, eat again, sleep without nightmares, and more than anything, I needed to love myself enough not to explain. No more justifying my silence. No more proving I was the good guy. No more showing the receipts or screenshots. Because healing isn't performance. Healing is a decision. I thought walking away would feel like failure. It didn't. It felt like freedom. Now when I think of her, it's not with anger. It's with distance. A kind of cold respect, the way you look at a lesson that nearly killed you and say, thanks, but never again. I've started over. New city, new friends. I even adopted a dog. Some mornings I still feel the echoes, but they fade faster now because she was never the ending. Just the thing I had to survive to find one. Sometimes you don't get justice. You get peace. And that's louder,